What a packed day we've got here. I think we're all here because we all agree what an exciting place women's football is at the moment. It's at a real tipping point. Competitions are developing, audiences are growing, investment is increasing, and the game is becoming more and more visible. But you can't underestimate the work that still needs to be done in order to make it sustainable. And as I said, we're at a really pivotal point in its development. My name's Tammy. I run an organization in the UK called the Women's Sport Trust. And we've been kind of at the forefront of pushing the development of women's sport in the UK for over a decade now, particularly focusing on visibility, commercial sustainability. So I can't tell you how excited I am to be running this panel, to really delve into some of what is actually turning the dial. And that is those international competitions, the visibility, the connection with fandom. So can I please welcome to the stage Pedro Sanchez, who is Chief Strategy Officer at Liga Femenine, Carlos Valenzuela of Club Tigres, a major football club in Mexico, who also works as a FIFA consultant, and Sebastien Fimat of Meltwater, a global leader in media intelligence and social analytics. So we've only got 40 minutes, and I must get my little timer to go so we don't run over. Before we delve into the rest of the content, I just want to get a glimpse of what drives you in this space. So very quickly, what are a couple of key influences, either personal or professional, that really shape your perspective in this area? So Carlos, can I come to you?
Yeah, thank you. First, I mean, I'd say in Mexico, women's football is relatively new, right? And it started in 2017. And what really drives me is that right now we can really make a difference in to have a sustainable project, to have a sustainable league. We don't want to make the same mistakes or areas of opportunities that we have on men's football, right? So we can really bound the foundations right now to have a sustainable league over time. And on a personal level, I have a 3-year-old daughter, a beautiful 3-year-old daughter named Paula. She really loves football, and I need to make sure that she has the same opportunities in Mexico than her brother growing up playing football.
So that sounds like the chance to make a new future is very much a motivating factor. Pedro, how about yourself?
Well, thanks to World Football Summit for organizing this big event. In my case, what started being by chance, I can say, when I was 18 years old, which means that I'm quite old now, starting as a student in the German school in Valencia, and by chance, starting to train a group of girls, football. Society was quite different than it is now, and it ended to be a life's purpose, let's say. So I felt in love. I truly believe in the power and that we are doing the right thing. And I also have a daughter, 11 years old, beautiful daughter, and she does not like football. She does not play football. But I think it's also the purpose and the message, the legacy that we want to leave, that girls can do anything. And football, which has been a male-dominated industry, I think what we all are doing here, it's part of the next society that comes.
So you've had the bug for quite some time as well. Sebastien.
Yeah. First of all, great to be here, and thank you so much. To the risk of sounding a bit cheesy, I'll go for a personal one and just mention here my mother. She's been a sport journalist for many, many years, and probably she had an impact here on my passion for sport and football in particular, as well as, I would say, the necessity to get informed, right? To cross-check sources as well to make sure you make more accurate decision, right? And maybe on another note, being half French, half Colombian, I had but no other choice to be involved into football. That might be. So.
It's amazing how much of what's driving people is very personal. It's very emotional. And it's where I really want to start is right at that fandom level, that real connection level. We know that fandom is the foundation of commercial success. Without it, that sort of everything else crumbles. Sebastien, to you do lots around social listening. So you know what people are talking about, you know what's driving their interest. What is the analysis telling us about women's football and those key drivers of conversation? I guess what's trendy?
Yeah. Well, that's a big question. No? First of all, I think it's good to remind ourselves of the growing exposure, no, that women's football is getting. Like, think about the fact that we had like 215% more media coverage last year than the year before. Coverage, of course, that is coming mostly from, part from the major football leagues like USA or UK, accounting for 20 to 10% of the total coverage over the typically past 6 months. But it's cool to see and to notice also in the drivers of conversation other topics, like the Ballon d'Or ceremony, for instance, recently, or the recognition, the growing recognition of the women and top female footballers. And I would say, apart from sport, what we've been noticing, especially after the Olympics, as driver of conversation, as you mentioned, I would say the financial disparities on one end and the pay disparity, combined at the same time with the buzz we see on social media about the growing investment into women football, such as, for instance, the Women's 7-a-side football series coming up soon, or the record-breaking transfers that's quite buzzing recently, as well as I would say, the growing impact of prominent influential figures supporting the women football. And that's something that actually has been discussed earlier on by some of the panelists this morning. And last but not least, also the development, the need for development of the infrastructures. Typically thinking here about the stadium and the training facilities. Definitely a topic to follow up quite closely on social medias.
Oh, interesting. Moving to yourself, Carlos, the Mexican League has built a really passionate fan base. Can you tell us a little bit about how that league has come about and what's been most effective in growing that audience?
Sure, yeah. First of all, let me give you some context, right? The Mexican League started in 2017. It was the Mexican Federation decided that by obligation, all of the 18 men's teams would have to have a women's team, right? So out of nothing, we had 18 women's teams. Very supportive and very passionate, like you mentioned. And so for us, as a club level, we really took it seriously since the beginning. And like Sebastien was mentioning, in terms of just being supportive, but mostly in terms of infrastructure, right? Like we really learned that we could have, their own training facility, their own gym, their own medical access, physiotherapists, kinesiologists, and just simple things. Or now, fast forward a couple of years, it's normal now, right? Or at least for us, but at the beginning it wasn't in women's football. And they're able to train at the stadium day before the match. Obviously, on match day, they play at their stadium, right? It's the men and women stadium, right? It's just Club Tigres stadium. So that's something that we really learned, and that our fan base really cherished. That they're really passionate about it because we've been supporting them since day one. And an example is that on our men's teams, in terms of fan preference or fan base, we're probably number 4 or 5, and on the women's teams we're number 1 or 2, depending on the year. Obviously, the sporting results are there; they have to be there. At least that's what we think, and we've had sporting success. In Club Tigres has 9 trophies, 9 championships, and the one that follow us, it's Rayadas, who has 4 championships, and then Club America and Chivas, who have 2, right? So there's a big gap. We're really proud of that, and we're building a dynasty and making an example on women's football in Mexico.
Pedro, are there particular business models that support clubs best to build the fan bases that we're talking about here?
I think it's all about creating a community, and it's part of the journey, actually. And we need to understand that we are launching a new product if we want to succeed. At least from our perspective, we don't want to just make copy-paste of what's in men's football. I think our success will come into creating a different product, creating a product that is demanded by many fans, and thus we are part now in Liga F in this brainstorming or understanding, first of all, how the product should look like, in the 3 big touch points that we understand we have with our fans, which is the match day experience, which is the digital, and which is the TV experience, the broadcasting experience. So this is the 3 touch points that we have with our fans. We need to create a specific product and a specific experience for them, because what we believe is that we have a great opportunity on reaching out. I wouldn't call them fans, because they are not fans yet, but people, consumers, that even do not like football, but they will get linked or get emotional or fall in love with what women's football can offer them. And this is part of a journey in constructing all this structure and understanding what our fans are demanding. And this is what we are also working with our clubs. I think understanding that we need to offer something else. It's not just posting that the match is being played Sunday at 12, opening the doors. I think even on men's football, this is not just enough. But on women's football, we are working very closely with our friend in fan experience, in offering something new. We need to have this mindset on constructing something new.
I'm really pleased that you delved into that a little bit, because often, so for ages on these panels, we consistently hear that we've got to do things differently, we've got to, not copy the men's and all this sort of thing, but we never actually get into what that actually means. So you're saying about the key fan experiences. Anything else, sort of where is the opportunity to make change? Because we can't, for instance, we can't start playing basketball on the football pitch. So where are the opportunities to be different?
I would say the best on women's football is the flexibility that we have. It's like a blank canvas. We can do anything.
Where is the flexibility? So fan experience, definitely.
Everything around except a rectangle on a green pitch with a ball with 22 players and 3 referees. Everything except this, we can innovate, we can create.
And that is so exciting. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You're glowing as you talk about it.
I would say there is no other industry, no other opportunity in the industry that can create something so valuable, so passionate, and so crazy to the people. So everything is to be done.
Yeah, a fantastic space to be in. We know that visibility underpins everything. Carlos, when we spoke earlier, you were talking about the importance of evolving broadcast deals, the role platforms like YouTube play in reaching your fans. From your perspective, how do broadcast rights work in Mexico to begin with? That would be useful to mention. And what have been those strategic media moves that have been most impactful in driving visibility and growing the audience?
Sure, yeah. Again, broadcasting deals in Mexico are dealt different than in the world, I would say, right? Or at least the most developed leagues. In Mexico, the broadcasting rights are not centralized, right? Like in Europe, like in Spain or England or any US sports. Right, so that means that each club, each team needs to have a strategy and needs to go out and sell their own broadcasting rights. And traditionally, what everyone does, or the easy part, is just packaging the women's product with the men's. Right? Why? Because the men's has been there long enough, and it has visibility and X and Y. Right? And so that's something very traditional that happens, at least in Mexico and in most parts of Latin America. And what we really try to do is we went the opposite, just resonating what Pedro is mentioning. It's a white canvas, right? So it's really about building a new product and actually going out. And what we did is we went out to the market. We understood that our women's team had a value, had a different value, a total different fan base, total different visibility, brand, marks, logos. And we went out and started negotiating. And fast forward, we ended up with 3 main broadcast deals. And so we have a bunch of visibility. Access is very important for us. People need to be, they need to make sure that they can see their team, very accessible. And so we have 3 broadcast partners, 1 in Mexico in Spanish, then we have 2 in the US, which is Fox and Estrella. And that ended up with OTT, and then obviously the Liga MX broadcast the matches in YouTube. So I guess that's 4 at the end of the day. And it's all about visibility. It's all about storytelling and that really made us, it's something that we're really proud of in Tigres, because again, all of the investment and if we generate whatever we generate in infrastructure and money, it goes back directly to the whole ecosystem to have better media partners, better infrastructure, better players, and to have better infrastructure overall.
Yeah, I know as the Women's Sport Trust, we do a lot of data and analysis around that visibility space, and it's fascinating to look at the different audience demographics on YouTube, on the linear TV, and recognize that we're trying to grow totally different audiences everywhere. And if you look on, so for instance, on our free-to-air, on the BBC channels, on linear, it's still a very much, I want to say older audience, people my age basically, are still watching on those linear channels. And YouTube is giving us access to those younger audiences, often more female as well. So it's not sort of doubling down in one area. It's sort of, in order to grow this, we've got to be in multiple different areas.
It's not one or the other,
yes.
right? It's for everyone. Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's talk about international competitions. We still rely on peak moments to drive mainstream attention. If you look at the analysis in the UK, for instance, those definitely see those peak moments. Last year we had no international competitions that the Lionesses, the English football team, were playing at. So it was a real interesting moment to see that sort of baseline figures, and we can see the baseline interest growing in women's football, in women's sport generally. But if you look at where attention is, it's still those big football moments where the Lionesses are playing. So we're still relying on those peak moments to drive interest, despite things growing. So it might be interesting to try and understand what captures attention at these global events to help us inform how we grow things on a domestic level. I suppose a question to everybody first. So if we look at one of those big global events, the Olympics that we've just had, which women's sport do you think sparked the most conversational attention during the Olympics? I'll give you a choice of 4. We've got football, basketball, gymnastics, or athletics. So let's see a show of hands. Which do you think sparked the most global conversation? So football. Not many people there. Basketball. Not many. Gymnastics. Woo, quite a few. Athletics. Probably, I'd say gymnastics is leading here, athletics next. Football is at the bottom. Sebastien, I'm going to come to you. Obviously, we need you to answer that question. Talk to us about what you've found out and any insight into how we can leverage those international moments of peak interest to build consistent long-term fandom.
Yeah. Being the social media analytics guy, I'm allowed to answer that one indeed. The answer is football, guys. Women football got the most coverage, followed up by basketball, gymnastics, and then athletics. So actually the percentage is quite huge, the difference. No? We talk about 44% of the total coverage. Of course, this was led by the USA, that count for 30%-ish of the total coverage of the women football topics during the tournament, during the Olympics in itself. And it's not because Carlos is representing Latam women football here that I'm going to highlight this, but among the worldwide spreading of the media coverage, definitely Latam is to emphasize here. Since Brazil, Argentina, Colombia, and Mexico, counting among the top 10 countries with the highest media coverage during the tournaments. It's quite interesting here to see, and maybe I can bring you some deep dive into one country. It's Colombia, to see an impact on a broader scale, as you mentioned, after the peak of interest of the tournament in itself. Of course, typically the Colombian women football team had a good dynamic in the Olympics and also before in the World Cup, and this led to a broader conversation, bringing new audiences discussing not only like the sport result in itself, but other topic of interest, such as the necessity to put some effort into the women's status, into the recognition of women in football in the country. In the following weeks after the event, after the tournament, we also saw a lot of more and more posts and conversation highlighting the necessity to bring more gender equality and also pay disparity concerns relating to this Colombian football team. So it's quite fascinating to see the impact a football women team had on a larger audience, I would say leveraging and raising awareness towards more societal, more global conversations in a country. So that's definitely a cool example to share, I believe.
Yeah, thank you. Carlos, Mexican clubs are starting to play more international matches and tournaments. Thinking forward, you've got the things like the impact of the FIFA Club World Cup coming. How important do you see this global exposure for long-term success? And what challenges come with that expansion?
Sure, yeah. We're a team that has always been looking for that global expansion, and it comes with global recognition. We love to be international. We really love to set the example in Latin America, because we really, we're sure and we're positive that we're inspiring other clubs and other leagues to follow us as an example. And we've done, just to give you a couple of examples, we were the first team to ever play a home and away match against an NWSL team, right? So we hosted Houston Dash a couple of years ago. They came into Monterrey, they played, and then we went to Houston. We played against Angel City Football Club. I believe it was their first ever international club friendly match, and we went to LA, and we took, everyone. It was a group of 40 people, and also fans and media. We helped them to, get access to the stadium and everything. And then we had, actually a year and a half ago maybe, we hosted Real Madrid and Barcelona. They played at our stadium. It was amazing. It was incredible. It was, I think 35,000 people. The weather was not great. So on a good day, we would definitely sold out. Our stadium is 42,000 people. Every final or every semifinal, we play and we have a sold out crowd, which is amazing for us. We also have a strategic partnership with Bayern Munich. We do that. It's more than just playing friendly games. It's on and off the field. It's about social impact, social media strategy with their team, best practices in business, and we also play matches with them. And we played a match in Monterrey, and they broke their attendance record for an international match. Again, it was, I believe, 37,000 people also. And so it's something that we really are always looking for. We always are looking for that international exposure, international matches. And going back to the question on on the FIFA Club World Cup, it's something that we definitely want to be there. Like that, we're aiming for that. It's something that we're dreaming of. We're hosting actually the Final Four in CONCACAF. We're hosting it at our stadium. So Portland Thorns, Gotham from New York, Club America from Mexico, and Tigres were playing at our stadium, and whoever wins that four will go to the FIFA Club World Cup. And we understand that football is not about deserving, right? But we're a team that has actually put their heart and their we've put the money where our mouth is since the beginning, and we really want to be part of that exposure on the club level.
Yeah. Pedro, there's a balance that needs to be struck between these sort of those big tournaments, these international moments, and the domestic leagues as well. Can you talk to me about the strategies the things we need to be aware of, the strategies that need to be in place to get that balance right?
I think what makes also women's football different is that all the stakeholders should work together, because we are not competing yet. At least this is our point. So for us, we are super happy that the Mexican league grows, that the English league, that the Japanese leagues, and I believe that they both also, because it's part of a global movement and a global growth. Indeed, 3 months ago, we had an assembly with all the big leagues in Madrid together, and it was fascinating. Even the executives on the men's side that were for the first time on the women's side, they were amazed on the natural exchange of information between leagues and working together, the atmosphere. So back to your question, I think the landscape on competition has changed massively. 10 years ago, it was the big tournaments driving the development of women's football, World Cups, Euro Cups. But the growth now, actually, I can say, at least in Europe, I would say, and United States, Mexico, and other parts, now it's the clubs and the leagues, the one. So there's a new big stakeholder that we need to respect and that we need to promote and that we need to give all the power, because I would say, from the one hand, it has been the driving force, which was the big tournaments. Now they should be the boosters, so to say. So every 2 years, every 4 years, it comes like an extra bonus on boosting the product. But what happens in between is what keeps the fans inside the game. Because if not, you will be losing the fans. Okay, they join massively on a World Cup, but the fans want to get in touch with the players every single week. The children, our daughters, whatever, they need to get in touch. So this is why the role of the clubs is so important, and the role of the leagues. And this is something that we are starting to have conversations also with FIFA, because they need to understand the international calendar cannot go into the same direction as on the men's side. You cannot put as many international windows. This is harming our players. And it's not about getting leagues with less clubs. No, it's about understanding where the place and what we need to put in. And this is, I think this is part of the journey. Hopefully this conversation, all the big stakeholders understand that this is not men's football. This is something that really, let's trust on the clubs. They are the ones driving the growth, actually. They're the ones caring for the players every single week, every single day, investing, opening the big stadiums. If anyone here from a club, you know it perfectly. It's so difficult to open a stadium. It's so stressful to get the fans to pay for all the costs for everything. We need to give credit to the clubs. We need to really care for them, because without clubs, we would never have players, World Cups, nothing. So I think this is at least what we are fighting for.
Yeah. We've seen massive progress in visibility, but financial sustainability is still a challenge for many women clubs. Going back to a recent report that we did, we benchmarked all the clubs across all the sports globally and found that Chelsea women were leading the way on TikTok. They were way out ahead of everybody else, which is fantastic for them, but you scratch the surface, and they were able to do that because they're posting 3 times the amount of content, and they can do that because they've got 4 full-time staff working in the social media team just on the women's side, which is equivalent to the men's side. So in order to grow, we need the resources, we need those finances to enable it to happen. Pedro, where do you see are the biggest gaps in terms of revenue generation, and what should clubs and leagues be prioritizing?
I still remember a conversation that we have with one club, one executive on the men's side, and he shared a great statement. He said that on men's football, we have a problem of costs, and on women's football, the challenge is on incomes. So, first of all, I would say it's a different landscape regarding the position or the weight on TV incomes and commercial incomes. While we see on men's football, I would say 90% of the incomes rely on TV and 10% on commercial. On women's football, what we see is it's almost 50-50, I would say, or even more commercial. So there are great commercial opportunities around that. But if we go to the commercial side, first we need to take a step back and get back to this creating a product. We need to create something valuable to offer before asking anyone. We cannot go to the brands and just ask them to invest in this without having at least a vision. At least a vision. Maybe it's not, because what we see in women's football is that many people believe in the future. They understand that the present maybe is not yet what they would like to be, but they believe on the vision. And if you are able to share your vision, to share your passion, what you are aiming to build, the response of investors, of brands is key. So I think we need to focus on having more incomes that give also the message to the owners. The club have been doing a lot of efforts throughout decades of losing money, of trusting in that it will come. We are investing. We need to invest. We need to have patience. And I think it's our responsibility also as leagues and the stakeholders to give them back this trust. And they've been trusting, very patient. And this is what, for the first time ever in Spanish women's football, last season, our clubs got an average of 1 million euros only from the league, which is something historical. Of course, where we are aiming for, no one knows. If we take a look back 10 years ago, just talking about millions, it would be out of the conversation. So I think the future is bright. And again, if all the stakeholders understand that we need to work together and create a valuable product and care for the fans, create a community, offer them something different, and really care for the experience, women's football will absolutely succeed.
I love that, the quote, we need to create a valuable product. We need to, firstly, I think we need to start articulating what is value. What do we value in women's football? What are we willing to let go of as we develop? What's at the core? And then we started to create measurements that actually create that commercial confidence and start to bring brands in.
There is one great example. If you see on men's football, when the teams arrive to the stadium, you see a security line of 1 square kilometer.
Yeah.
So no one can approach. And I understand, maybe it's security. On women's football, I mean, your role models, you want to be near to your role models. A girl or a boy wants to touch them, wants to sit down and take a coffee with them, understand that they are the same as they are. And this is part of the role models. It's not creating superstars. It's not about Iron Man or Superman. It's about having normal people that have special skills, that have fought a lot. And this is what me, at least as a dad, would love that my daughter could look at. A normal person that can share a story. And this is, I think, part of the DNA of women's football. We cannot lose this, definitely.
We talk about authenticity, and
Absolutely.
you just described it then.
Absolutely.
It's like, how do we be more authentic? Absolutely.
Just adding up, in Tigres, when the matches are done, the players go with the crowd and they sign autographs and they take pictures, because it's all about accessibility. It's all about being there with the fans. I completely agree.
Yeah, so as we grow, we need to make sure we maintain these things.
Correct. Example. Just another example that came to my mind around valuable product. I don't know if you agree. I'm bored of the interviews on the men's side at the end of the game.
Yes.
It's normally stupid questions. Excuse me for the media. It's not about that you're stupid. But the questions are, okay, yes, we are prepared. Yes, we are ready, or whatever. It has been a tough game. Why not, and this is why being innovative, why not including fans asking the players?
Yes.
Why not a player asking another player? Let's think different, because we need to offer something. And I think that people are expecting something more realistic.
Which actually makes me think that we should have some audience questions. So think about it. If we've got time, we're coming to you. Sebastien, what kinds of sponsorship activations or brand partnerships have you noticed in that sort of social kind of space that have been most effective in gaining visibility and engaging fans?
So maybe as a start, it's complex to do both sometimes, no? Fan engagement and visibility, meaning that when you focus on campaign performance, you're aiming at increase your exposure, at gaining instant visibility in the moment. Whereas when you look at fan engagement or brand awareness, you look for longer-term objective, no? that will bring consistency and maybe a steadier impact. So we can analyze sponsorship measurement, or we do when we do analyze a sponsorship activation on both angles, no? But maybe one example here I can share is that, so we typically work with like a major sportswear brand that works with all the most prestigious, or most of the most prestigious football and sport club worldwide. And recently, instead of like doing the sponsorship activation through the name of the club in itself, they rather decided to focus on specific athletes. And they asked us to build kind of a scorecard relating the athletes with key topic of interest they wanted awareness on. Like health, like high performance, like diversity and inclusion, sustainability, for instance, no? And the scorecard, the scorecard athlete was a way for them, for the company, to make sure to understand which audience the sponsorship activation would resonate the most with. Example, athlete A for sustainability purposes, athlete B focusing on audience dedicated to diversity and inclusion, and so forth. And that was typically a great example that brought not only more accurate results, but also more efficiency in the campaign, and ultimately time saver, a big time saver both for the brand and for the club in itself that benefit from it as well. That was typically an example on, I would say, how you can customize, instead of going into like a broad generic sponsorship activation, how you can customize the consumer insights to a more personalized approach. And we've been discussing this, the necessity to go beyond the peak of interest in major tournaments and go with a steady fan base and growing audience. This will be probably brought through this kind of customized, targeted approach, as we saw from this sportswear brand that I'm not allowed to mention, but that I'm gladly share with you guys.
No, I can see the next panel forming over there, so I know that our time is running out. I've got one more question to all of you. However, I can forget my question if there's a burning question out here in the audience. Does somebody have a better question than me? No? Okay, well. So the last question. And it's one of those, if you had won whatever and in the future, but hopefully. If you had to name one game-changing development that could take women's football to the next level in the next 5 years, think out the box, okay? What would that be? Pedro?
Only one.
Just one. Doesn't have to be the one, it could be one of many, but one thing that you would like to see happen.
I believe in creating a great community that is really working for the empowerment, and I believe things that are already happening is we need to give credit to something that is already happening, which is no one turns the head when you see a girl playing in the park. And 10 years ago, it was strange to see girls playing football. Yeah. Now, you just cross the street ahead because it's normal to see a girl and a boy playing. And I think this is a big success. And hopefully we can create a great community that is creating the society of tomorrow.
Fantastic. Sebastien?
Allow me to say two very quickly. From a social media standpoint, going back to what I was saying earlier, then we've been seeing a growing exposure, right, with peak of interest for major tournaments. But I would say that one game share would lie in our ability to nurture and leverage those new audiences into long-term fans. And on a more personal perspective, being the proud father of a young daughter, one other game changer would be to see more young women playing the sport, and maybe linking both. This ability to be more present in the media, digital, social media landscape through more diverse content, more leveraging more content creators, more prominent, influential figures, will be a way to attract more young women to play the sport that we love. And in the end, bringing more visibility and investments associated with it. Great. So I would mention those two.
Carlos, you've got the last word.
Yeah, I'll mention two as well, really quick. The first one I'd say staffing. We really need to make sure that we have the correct staff and that is professionalized staff, right? At least in Mexico in the last 3-4 months, we've had, I believe, 13 or 14 ACL injuries, right? And I know it's overall in the world, right? But we need to be able to know the data and maybe try to do it better and how to get better results. So in terms of staffing, I think we need to have more staff, more women leaders in football clubs and in women's teams, and that in the staffing part. And then the other thing, and it's about accessibility. I really think that for the product and for the women's game to actually grow and have a sustainable grow over time, there needs to be access to actually watching the games, right? We need to be able to broadcast the matches or stream the matches in YouTube or wherever you want, but just access to the matches.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, it's been an absolute privilege talking to the three of you. Thank you so much. Next up is a panel on finding balance that between mental health and performance. So please say great thanks to these guys and welcome the next panel to the stage.